Then we have the move tool. All right, so literally what the move tool does, it moves it or translates your object from one location to another location. So if I have this face selected and I click, where I click becomes the reference point, and I move it from that point. You see that line showing me that, okay, that's where I started moving it from, and this is how far it's going. When I look at my lower right, I can see the distance I'm traveling with my tool. All right, so I click here, it keeps the face. So you move the face from this point to that point. If I press Ctrl Z to undo, you see where the face started from. I press Ctrl Y, see where it moved to. All right, so that's the move tool. So you could move anything with the move tool. All right, so you could move this face, you could move an edge alone. I select the edge, I could move the edge alone, up and down. Where things will happen when you move them, but you just need to know you could move them. I could move this line by selecting it, and then I move it to anywhere. All right, so I'm going to explain some things about the workings of SketchUp when we're done looking at general tools, but for now let's just look at the general tools. All right, so you can see how the move tool becomes handy. So if I select everything in this object, I could move the whole object, the move tool. All right, and always remember where I clicked matters. All right, so if I select this object and I click on this point here, what this means is I'm moving the whole object I selected with reference to this point. So if I click and drag, you see how it's moving it from the point I clicked from. Or remember, it's what you have selected that when you click on another point, it will move that using that point as reference. So I started moving it from here. I could decide that I wanted to use this line as a reference point, right? And move it like along like so. But those are different things we could do. So that's the move tool. And then we have the rotate tool. All right. Just like it says, it helps you to rotate objects. All right, so I could click on this point and then click on this point and then rotate it along that point, or I could have the rotate tool there. Then I could click on, let's say, this point here and rotate it to this point, and then just do a rotation. You see how it rotates around that as the reference point. All right, so these tools are the manipulation tools. All right, so they all have businesses to reference point, especially the move tool and the rotate tool. Even the scale tool has reference, but the reference is slightly different from these two. All right, so but the main point there is you need to note that when you have your object selected, any other place you click while having this tool active becomes your reference point. So if I click here, this becomes the reference point to which I rotate that whole rectangle. So if I read that reference point and then I click on where I want to start rotating from, I put my mouse here and click, and then I can start rotating it from that side, right? Or if I want to rotate it from here, I could just click on this point and click here. Maybe I want to align this to touch this side. I just rotate it till it gets to that point, and I could just orbit around to come around, and then I click and leave to, keep my rotation. All right, so the rotate tool works that way, and you would want to practice with these tools to really understand how they work, because there are things I can't explain now because they are interlapping functionalities, and I'll do the interlapping explanation probably the videos after this one when I'm done going through the getting started tools. All right, so that being said, that's where the rotate tool comes in handy. All right, so the next tool is the scale tool. All right, so suddenly you want to scale and you find out there is a box around what you want to scale. All right, now this is the concept of the bounding box. The bounding box concept is a concept that works in the 3D world. Oh, Jesus, I can't explain that. It's a whole programming, mathematical, technical explanation right there. So, but all I just want you to know is that the bounding box appears over objects that you want to rotate or move or scale. Now, it appears you only see it here in SketchUp when you want to scale, but a bounding box is part of the things. If you've used another 3D software, you might be familiar with the bounding box. All right, but what it does is it takes everything you want to do or you want to scale, and it wraps it around a box. This box becomes your reference points for scaling it. All right, so I want to scale from the top right. I click on this point and it scales it respect to the opposite point. All right, you can see the other point being highlighted. at the lower side, like the point in this place being highlighted, and I can scale it respect to this point, or I can scale it respect to that point. I can scale this point and it's respect to the opposite point, this point respect to the opposite point, this point respect to the other side. All right. I can scale this face. You see how it's going now. But usually when you want to scale, you want to scale uniformly. All right. So when you're doing uniform scaling, it depends. All right. So when we start modeling, we'll really go into how you could manipulate this. All right. So if I want to scale the thing up or down, you see how I can just drag up and down. But the scale works with 2 reference points. All right. So I can scale like this, I can scale anyway. I can just, manipulate it, do different stuffs. All right. So, but that's how the scale tool works. It enables you to change the size of your object. If you remember when we're dealing with the orbit or the navigation tools, I was explaining that when you are dealing with the navigation tools, what you're moving is your viewport and not the object. All right. So when we come to these 3D manipulation tools, what it does is it moves the actual object in the 3D space. All right. So the viewport on navigation tools moves you around the 3D space, while these manipulation tools moves the object within the 3D space. All right. That is a very important point to note. All right. So now going into the next tool, we have flip. Now it's called flip here, but I actually wrote out the mirror because that was the last name it was called. So what flip does is it creates it brings out the 3 planes of reference for you, which is your X, your Y, your X, and your Z plane. All right. So what it does is it gives you the ability to flip it along that side. It's like a mirror tool. If you use the mirror tool, that's exactly how it works. So if you look at the shape and say, I want this shape to, if I'm looking at it from the top down, I want this shape to flip towards the side. All I need to do is to click on the red and it flips to the other side. If I wanted to flip downwards, I click on the green, it flips downward. Now, if I want it to flip along the bottom plane, I click on that. Now you can notice that nothing happened, and that's not necessarily because it doesn't have anything there, but because it's symmetric along that plane, so you wouldn't notice anything. But if I select everything now and I click on the flip tool, if I flip it along that plane, suddenly you see that was down comes up. All right, so use this to flip along the 3 planes, or you could flip it along a particular object as a reference. So I could put this place and flip it, and it flips it with reference to that point. I could put it here and flip. I could put it at any other point, sorry. Oops. Wow. That was weird. All right, so just a sec. Don't send. There's no time for that. SketchUp. I guess the little laptop can crash. All right. So this training is a live training. All right. So I'm not like cropping out different things to, go straight to the point. I want different things to happen so you see how you could model and do different things. There are problems you could come across. There are things you could, experience in the process of your modeling and stuff like that. So I don't want you to think it's a robotic exercise. All right. So I am back, and that was a crash. So if I had not saved and that was a big project, I have lost all my, so yeah, SketchUp can crash. That's a lesson. What that means is learn the art of saving. Jesus Christ, this is a very priceless advice. Learn the art of saving. If you have to set 10 minutes alarm to help you save every 10 minutes, you might want to do that. All right. So I always say when I hit every eureka point, or I hit every progression point. So that's very important for you to note. All right. So that's that for the flip tool, and that what makes up our manipulation tools. So we're going on to go ahead. So we're going to go ahead to deal with the last set of tools, which is going to be the other set of tools that are left. All right. So I'll do that in another video. So thank you very much for watching this video. If you liked the video, if you were blessed, if you have learned new skills, you would want to like, share, and subscribe to help the algorithm for others to be able to locate this video. Thank you very much. Catch you in the next one.